Rocky, time to jump into some betting again, mate. I'm back from a break, ready to fire off some winners, hopefully. You went pretty close last week with Dill, another week of 3 out of 4 legs.
Yeah, another could have been, but again, we're out in the first leg, so Friday night. So it was an easy watch all weekend, but unfortunately, it was all over for us Friday night.
Yeah, no, good. Look, good to be back at it, though. Let's look ahead to Saturday. Didn't think this was a game that we would be talking about. The Sydney Swans taking on North Melbourne at the SCG on Saturday afternoon. Feels like the Roos could play spoiler over these coming 6 or so weeks. The Swans are still the premiership favourites, but we have seen some chinks in the armour over the last fortnight or so. These two sides haven't played since round 10 last year. Buddy kicked 3 in that game. The Chad was massive as well with 33 touches. Look, trends-wise, North has covered the line in 4 of their last 6 games as an away underdog. Can you build a case for North Melbourne upsetting the Swans here at home?
Oh, I don't think they'll upset them, but they've certainly been playing much better footy, haven't they, North Melbourne? Again, beat the Gold Coast on the weekend, who cannot travel whatsoever. Sydney at home is a different beast. We know that they've been off the mark a little bit the last couple of weeks, but 48.5, maybe. I think they're probably playing good enough to cover that line, North Melbourne, but I'd be leaning towards Sydney bouncing back pretty strongly.
Do you think the Swans are going to tag either Sheasel or Wardlaw? Both had about 30 touches or so last week.
I don't think so. I think they'll go head-to-head, depending on if they get off the chain. But Sydney's midfield and their ability to find the footy and impact the scoreboard the other way, I think they'll back their mids in head-to-head. So we sit here Tuesday morning. Isaac Heaney's currently missing a week. I think he'll get off on appeal at the tribunals. But I don't think they'll tag anyone from North Melbourne.
North hasn't won at the SCG since 2018. That was also the last time they actually beat the Swans. So a couple of trends worth noting there for the punters. The other game I want to look ahead to is the Suns taking on your old mob, Port Adelaide, up on the Gold Coast on Sunday afternoon. Emotional win for Port a couple of weeks ago. Backed that up with a big win against the Dogs last week. Really hard to fault their efforts. Very strong display through the midfield last week. Rosetti, Butters, Wines, Horn Francis, massive around the footy. The Suns, though, as you said, still can't win on the road. Ran out of legs like they so often do against North Melbourne. We spoke before the show, Port look good value here on the road, but you've also said the Suns are a different side at home. What are you thinking?
Yeah, they certainly are. Jared Witts is a big one. I don't think, is he coming back in? I think he might be still another week away. So he certainly, his unavailability will certainly impact the Gold Coast Suns. So they're almost a value for me. 230 Port Adelaide on the weekend. It's quite incredible after the way they played against the Western Bulldogs, but again, their midfield just ran riot. You have Rosie having 18, Butters 16, Wines 13, I think it was at quarter time. They're off the charts, those numbers. They won't certainly get that against the Gold Coast Suns. Miller, Anderson, Rao, they'll be up for the contest. So I tell you, I'm sort of leaning into Port Adelaide being the value of the round. I said before that Gold Coast are certainly a different team at home, but the way that Port Adelaide played last week, Gold Coast potentially don't have their number one ruckman. I think that's good value on Sunday afternoon, the early game. Pending weather, it's been really wet up here in Queensland, tipped to be a bit that way at the start of the week, but then really clear up at the end of the week. So I'd imagine Port Adelaide will play fast brand of footy up here on the Gold Coast. They're coming a little bit early, a couple of days early. They're the value for me this weekend.
Interestingly, winning the clearances has been a real problem for these two sides. We saw North had 19 more stoppage clearances compared to the Suns last week, and the Power lost the clearance battle against the Dogs as well. Both sides ranking 12th and 13th respectively in clearances this year, so I think that could be the key area for both sides to win on Sunday. Look, we've got to get to some betting now. The wooden spoon has really opened up. We've seen Richmond firm into $1.80 now that North have lifted from the bottom of the table. You can still take $2.75 for the Roos to win the spoon. Looking ahead, the Tigers have 2 consecutive games against current sides in the top 8. Then they play Collingwood in 3 weeks' time. North, very much the same. They've got the Swans, Carlton, and then the Cats in Hobart. What are you thinking here in terms of the wooden spoon? Richmond actually going to take this out?
Round 21. Round 21 will tell us who's going to take out that wooden spoon. North Melbourne take on Richmond. You would have to say that North Melbourne are certainly playing the better footy at the moment. If Richmond can get a few back from injury and start to play a bit more consistent footy, but Richmond would be my tip as we sit here right now, heading towards round 18. It has to be that Richmond are favourites to do that. I think if North continue on the path that they're on at the moment, they will win that game against Richmond and seal it up. They got West Coast the week after, so a couple of winnable games on the way home for North Melbourne. I would imagine that Richmond may finish last, but I wouldn't also discount the West Coast Eagles. The way they're going at the moment, they're been bitterly disappointing the last few weeks, almost uncompetitive at times. They're only a game above. North Melbourne beat West Coast on the way home. Richmond beat North Melbourne. West Coast may finish on the bottom.
You did tip West Coast against my Hawks a couple of weeks ago. I won't let you forget that one. Let's talk the multi really quick. Last week, Dill took Collingwood 1-39, so you were dead in the water on Friday night. You did take North to cover against the Suns, and you have been against all of us tipping North on this show this year. And once again, they've come through.
Yeah, no, we've got a new rule that we can't back North Melbourne or West Coast on this podcast, and they were good, North Melbourne, last week. I didn't expect us to be out on Friday night. I thought Collingwood were sure things, actually, so I was more favourable towards Dill, but then I just fronted up on the player markets, didn't I, and just went bang, bang again.
You did very well. This is some of your best. Paddy Cripps, 30-plus disposals. Bailey Fritsch, 3-plus goals. 2 really good value plays from you. Very strong.
Very strong, but unrewarded again, 3 from 4. So we're due for one, and I think this week may be our week.
What are you thinking? You're sticking fat with the player markets, I know that.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with the player markets. I think Zach Merritt, he may get a bit of attention from Melbourne, but I think 30-plus with no Gawn there, he'll feast on their midfield brigade. I think he'll have a lot of clearances, so I'm going him 30-plus in that game. And then Marcus Bontempelli, we've seen probably maybe the worst game we've seen from him in about 5 or 6 years. Whether he's still carrying that back, we know he's had a few issues against Port Adelaide last week. I think he will kick goals though, so I'm going to take him for 2+ against Carlton.
I like it a lot. I'm going all Adelaide in my 2 legs this week. So taking the Crows head-to-head against St Kilda. Saints were good last week. Very surprising win, but I'm not a believer at all. Only $1.45 for the Crows head-to-head at home on Saturday, but happy to take that. And we've already spoken about the value about Port Adelaide on Sunday against the Gold Coast Suns. Going to throw that in there as well. So we've got Zach Merritt, 30-plus touches, the Bont 2+ goals, Crows to win, Power to win, $12.98.
Oh, I think that this might get us back on the winners list, I think, this week. May come down to Sunday afternoon.
We need it, mate. We've still only got one for the year, but we're not far off another one. Thank you as always.
Going Ryan.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website